Ready to dive into some seriously deep stuff. We're tackling Sartre's Being and Nothingness today.
Whoa, boy, are we ever. Talk about dense philosophical
Yeah,
concepts.
but trust me, this is going to be worth it. You've given us a lot to unpack from Sartre, so...
It's really incredible stuff, though.
Oh, absolutely. So let's just dive right in, shall we?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So Sartre throws this curveball at us right from the start. This whole consciousness as nothingness thing.
Yeah,
I gotta admit, it's a bit of a brain teaser.
that's putting it lightly.
How can, my own awareness be nothingness?
You and countless philosophers have grappled with that question. What's so fascinating about Sartre is that he doesn't just present philosophical theories. He provides a framework for understanding the very essence of our existence.
Okay, so how does he actually explain that? How does that work?
He'd say, consciousness, it's not something, right? It's not like a rock or a tree.
Right, it's not something you can just point at.
Exactly. It's not something you can measure or
Yeah.
quantify.
Mm.
It's more like a void.
A void?
Yeah, a nothingness. And it's defined by its relationship to being, the world of objects, external reality, all that stuff.
So you're saying that our awareness of the world actually comes from recognizing what we aren't?
In a way, yes. It's
Yeah.
a very, very mind-bending idea.
It really is.
Think of it like a spotlight in a dark room.
Okay,
Right?
I'm picturing it.
You only see the spotlight because of the darkness around it.
Right, the contrast.
Consciousness is like that spotlight for Sartre. It gives the world shape and meaning by standing out against it.
Okay, I get the analogy. So our consciousness is this nothingness, this void. But does that make us just empty vessels?
That's where it gets really interesting.
Okay, because I was going to say, that doesn't sound very freeing.
Well, and Sartre is often associated with freedom, right?
Right, exactly.
And this is where it all ties together. Because consciousness isn't predetermined, it's not limited by some fixed essence.
Okay.
We are fundamentally free.
Okay, so how does that connect to this nothingness idea?
Well, because if we're not defined by anything inherent, we have the freedom to create ourselves.
So it's like the possibilities are endless.
Exactly. Think of an artist facing a blank canvas. There's infinite potential, but also the weight of unlimited choice.
Oh, I love that image. It's both empowering and terrifying at the same time.
Exactly. And Sartre doesn't shy away from that tension, because with this freedom comes radical responsibility. Every choice we make matters.
Whoa. Every choice.
Every single one. Each action, each decision, it all contributes to the person we are becoming.
That's intense. No pressure, right?
Right. There's no escaping that responsibility, according to Sartre.
It's funny because it makes me think of how sometimes having too many choices can be paralyzing. Like you're both liberated and completely overwhelmed at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a dilemma that Sartre explores deeply, this tension between freedom and the anxiety it can provoke.
It's so relatable, though.
Oh, for sure.
But we don't experience this freedom in a vacuum, do we? Like, we're not just isolated beings making choices in a void. What about other people? How do they factor into Sartre's view?
That's a really crucial aspect of his philosophy.
Okay, because it can't just be about our own individual freedom, right?
Right. Sartre brings in this idea of the look. Our freedom, he says, unfolds in a world with other conscious beings. And their gaze, the way they see us, it has this powerful impact on our own sense of self.
It's like when you're totally engrossed in something, just in your own world, and then you suddenly realize someone's watching you, and you become super self-conscious.
Yes, and it can be so jarring.
It's like you're suddenly aware of yourself as an object, not just a subject experiencing the world. Didn't Sartre have this whole thing about a keyhole?
Yes. He described this experience of feeling shame when you're caught looking through a keyhole.
I've totally been there, not gonna lie.
We probably all have at some point. And in that moment, you're suddenly hit with this awareness of yourself as an object of someone else's gaze.
Ugh, the worst feeling.
It really illustrates the power of the look. It has this ability to objectify us, to make us see ourselves as others see us.
So we're constantly negotiating between our own sense of self and how we think others perceive us.
Exactly. And that's a key tension in Sartre's philosophy. It makes you wonder, how can we ever truly be authentic when we're always navigating these external perceptions?
Right. Like, are we ever truly free from the influence of others?
That's the million-dollar question, and it leads us directly to Sartre's concept of bad faith, which is basically a way of denying our own freedom and responsibility.
Ooh, okay. This bad faith thing sounds juicy. Tell me more about that.
Sartre doesn't shy away from the, let's say, less glamorous aspects of being human.
Yeah, he definitely went there with love and desire.
He really did. I mean, he straight up challenges this romantic ideal we have of these experiences.
Yeah, not exactly a candlelit dinner conversation.
Now, unless you're trying to shake things up.
Yeah.
But seriously, for Sartre, love and desire, they often become entangled with this struggle for freedom. Like, he saw them as attempts to kind of possess the other person's freedom.
So instead of celebrating their freedom, we're trying to, like, trap it.
In a way, yeah. It's like we're trying to make their subjective experience an object, something we can control or possess.
That is kind of dark when you put it like that.
It is. But it's also, I think, insightful. Think about it. How often do we try to define our partners to put them in these neat little boxes?
All the time. Oh, he's the strong, silent type, or she's a free spirit.
Exactly. And in a way, we're trying to erase their freedom, their otherness, to make them fit into our own worldview. It's this weird paradox, right?
Totally. We crave freedom for ourselves, but then we try to limit it in others. But Sartre doesn't just leave us in this existential despair, does he? Doesn't he also talk about something called facticity?
Ah, yes, facticity. This is where Sartre tries to bridge the gap between our internal freedom, our thoughts and feelings, and the actual reality of our lives.
Okay, I'll be honest. Facticity makes me think of some complex mathematical equation.
It sounds very academic, but it's actually pretty straightforward. It just refers to all the given circumstances of our existence, the stuff we have absolutely no control over.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Okay, so the time and place of our birth, our physical bodies, our families, all our past experiences, those all make up our facticity.
So it's like the hand we're dealt in life.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like this is what makes you you.
But how does that work with this radical freedom thing? If I'm shaped by all these pre-existing conditions, how can I be truly free?
That is the million-dollar question right there.
Yeah.
Sartre acknowledged that our freedom isn't absolute. We don't get to choose our starting point in life. But, and this is important, our facticity doesn't negate our freedom. It actually provides the context in which our freedom operates.
So it's like I'm free to paint whatever I want on a canvas, but I can't change the size of the canvas itself.
Perfect analogy.
Or-
You get it. Our choices, they're always made within the framework of our given circumstances. But even within those limitations, we still have a huge amount of freedom.
Okay, I'm seeing the connection now. But then how do our choices give meaning to our lives?
It all comes down to how we choose to relate to our facticity. We can either let our circumstances define us, or we can transcend them through our choices.
So two people can be given a similar situation in life, but how they respond to it, how they choose to act, makes all the difference.
1,000%.
Mm-hmm.
Think about two people who both experience a major setback, like losing a job or something.
Okay, I'm with you.
One person might let that define them. You
Yeah.
know, like, this is it. This is who I am now, a failure.
Right, their whole identity becomes wrapped up in that one event.
Exactly. But someone else, they might see that setback as an opportunity, a chance to reevaluate their priorities, start a new career.
That is way healthier. And it's totally a choice how you view that experience.
Exactly. And that's Sartre's point. We have a say in how we interpret our experiences. We have the power to shape the meaning of events, even negative ones.
It's kind of like we're writing our own stories even though we didn't get to choose the first chapter.
Love that. And, speaking of stories, what about our pasts?
Okay, good point. Because we can't change what's already happened, right?
Nope. But here's the thing. While we can't change the events of our past, we can change how we interpret them.
So you're saying, I can't undo my past mistakes,
Nope.
but I can choose to learn from them.
Now you're getting it. We have this incredible power to reinterpret our past experiences, to reframe them within the larger narrative of our lives.
That's actually very freeing, because we often carry so much baggage from our past.
It's true. But we don't have to be defined by that baggage. We can choose to see our pasts as sources of wisdom, as opportunities for growth.
This is giving me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
But I gotta ask, if we're constantly evolving, constantly creating and recreating ourselves, where does that leave our sense of self?
Man, you asked the big questions. That is getting to the very heart of Sartre's whole deal, this concept of being in the world.
Ooh, being in the world. Sounds intense. And I think we need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we are diving into being in the world. And we are back, ready to tackle being in the world. That's kind of a mouthful.
It is a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it does sound very, how should I put it, grand.
Yeah, like something you'd hear in a philosophy lecture hall.
Yeah, but it's really quite a simple idea when you get down to it. Sartre is just talking about how our consciousness, our experience of the world, is always intertwined with our surroundings. It's not just that we exist in the world.
Right. It's more than that.
It's that our very being is inseparable from the world around us.
So we're not just these passive observers watching everything unfold around us.
Not at all. We are active participants. We shape our surroundings through our choices and actions.
And our surroundings shape us, right?
Exactly. It's
Wow.
a two-way street. It's like this constant dialogue between our consciousness and the world.
I love that. It makes me think about how, like, if I'm feeling happy and optimistic, the world just seems brighter, you know?
Absolutely. Or how a place can evoke certain memories or emotions based on your past experiences there. The world takes on different meaning depending on our own individual perspective.
It's like we're each carrying our own little world around with us inside our heads.
In a way, yes. And what's really cool is that every choice we make, every action we take, it kind of ripples outward, you know?
So our impact on the world goes beyond just our immediate surroundings.
Exactly. It's both exciting and, I think, a little bit daunting to think about. Even the smallest decisions can have these unforeseen consequences.
Yeah, that is a bit daunting when you put it like that.
But it's also empowering. We're not just cogs in a machine.
Right. We actually have the power to shape things.
Exactly. We're active agents in creating our own reality, both individually and collectively.
Okay, but hold on a second. If we're all out here creating and recreating the world with every choice we make, doesn't that lead to chaos?
That's a really good question. And this is where Sartre brings in this other important concept, being for others.
Okay, being for others. Hit me with it.
So it's kind of like a counterpoint to the idea of radical individual freedom. Sartre is reminding us that we don't exist in a vacuum. We're part of this interconnected web of relationships and shared experiences.
So our actions have an impact on other people, just like theirs have an impact on us.
Exactly. And that means we have a responsibility to consider the consequences of our actions, not just for ourselves, but for others as well.
It's like this ethical dimension to existentialism, right?
Absolutely. Sartre called for what he called an ethics of responsibility. He's saying, look, you're free to make your own choices, but you're not off the hook for the impact those choices have on other people.
So it's not just about finding my own individual meaning and purpose in life. It's also about recognizing how my actions contribute to the larger human story.
Nailed it. And that's what makes Sartre's philosophy so relevant, even today. He's reminding us that we're all in this together, whether we like it or not.
It's both humbling and empowering, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
Because it means that even though the universe might not have some preordained meaning or purpose, our lives are far from meaningless.
We have the power to create meaning, not just for ourselves, but for the world around us.
Wow. I think this deep dive into being and nothingness has really given me a lot to think about.
Me too. It's dense, but it's so rich with insight into what it means to be human.
Sartre really throws down the gauntlet, doesn't he? He's basically saying, okay, you're free. Now what?
And that's the question, isn't it? It's up to each of us to answer that question through our own lives, through our choices and actions.
So to you, dear listener, we leave you with that challenge. What meaning will you create today?